back to my channel. If you guys are new, welcome to the family. My name is Dina. I'm so glad to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about how to make this little guy a courage jar spell, and a lot of you have been loving my first jar spell video, and I actually had a request to make some more jar spell videos, so I thought this would be a really good one. I think everybody could use a little bit of courage every now and then, so let's get started. So like all my spells and rituals, I always start off with cleansing my space and my tools. If you know me, you know I love to cleanse with sound. I use my singing bowl a lot, but use whatever works for you. Next, I'm going to light my candle, and for this spell I actually had intended to use a red candle, but I totally forgot that I was using it for this spell, and I ended up using my last red candle in a ritual yesterday, so I used an orange one instead, and that is okay. That works too. I find the red and the orange candles definitely have that fiery, courageous energy that I was looking for, but don't stress if you don't have colored candles. A tea light candle would work just fine, and it's not necessarily the color of the candle that's magical, but more so your beliefs about that color and how you infuse your intention into the spell work. So don't get too caught up on the ingredients that I use in my spells. You are very much welcome to substitute and use whatever is available to you. Something I wish I was a little bit more careful of in my very first jar spell video is fire safety. I was definitely watching the candle the entire time, but I should have had a larger fireproof space, not just the little holder that I had. I did put a comment in that video, just a pin at the top, just to warn everybody else that, you know, you should be safer than I was in that video, but I am definitely taking precaution and being extra careful in my future videos. So I have a large plate that my candle and the candle holder is on in this video, and I think you should definitely take the precautions to do that too. Once you've lit your candle, take a moment to meditate or do whatever you need to do to raise energy. I actually have a video all about raising energy, and this is something that's extremely important in spell work, even more important than the ingredients that you're using. So I highly recommend watching that video if you don't know how to raise energy. It's going to help you make your spells a lot more successful. The first thing that I added to my jar is black pepper. It is definitely one of those ingredients that I see as a very not just protective but courageous energy. It's very representative of, you know, stepping into whatever you need to do, taking action and doing so fearlessly. That's what I was kind of going for with this jar spell, and it's something that you can use whether you are applying for a new job, whether you are scared about going on your first date, or you want the courage to ask somebody out on a date, or you just want the courage to pursue your dreams. Maybe you need the courage to get up and make some sort of change in your life. Maybe you need the courage to stand up for yourself to somebody who hasn't been treating you fairly. This jar spell can be used for many different reasons, and that's why we write down our intention on a piece of paper. And I like to be very specific in my spell work, be very detailed in what you are looking to achieve with this spell. So take a moment to reflect and write down what it is that you're trying to achieve with this spell. After you finish writing out your intention on the piece of paper, I decided to go a step further and infuse it with a part of me. Now this is optional. If you're not comfortable with this, you don't have to do this, but this is a very common practice in Magick. And what I did is I actually took a strand of my own hair and I wrapped it around the piece of paper while infusing that intention into it. And basically that strand of hair is a part of my DNA, and it links that spell to me. You don't have to do this. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work if you're not going to use it, but it is a really nice way to strengthen the spell. And if someone has specifically asked you to make it for them, you could even ask them for a strand of their hair and it's going to link the spell to them. So that's just a way of doing it. It's a really easy thing to do. I've got a ton of hair. I can, you know, take one tiny little strand. It's not going to make a difference on my head, but if you really don't want to pull out your hair, don't stress, you don't have to do this. The next ingredient I used is cinnamon essential oil. Now if you don't have this, you could just use cinnamon out of your cupboard in the kitchen. I definitely see cinnamon as that fiery energy that will give you the courage to do what needs to be done, to speak your truth, to stand up for yourself, to do whatever you need to do that takes some courage. I definitely love using cinnamon for this, and it has many different uses as well. Cinnamon's not only used for that particular energy, but it definitely symbolizes that for me. The next two herbs that I decided to add to this spell jar is thyme and basil. And again, these are just more ingredients that I specifically associate with courage and action. This is going to be different depending on what part of the world you're from, depending on your personal beliefs. But like all my other spells, I make sure I spend a good amount of time with each herb to infuse that intention into the herb, because that's what's going to give it power. Finally, I added a crystal, and you can use whatever crystal works for you, whatever one you have available to you that represents courage. I use tiger's eye. It is very commonly thought of as a courage stone. Tigers themselves, the animal, actually has a very courageous energy to them. They're very fearless, and tiger's eye, the crystal, it definitely embodies that kind of energy too. So I have always used tiger's eye as a stone for courage. Whenever I was going on a job interview or whatever I felt like I needed a little extra courage, I would stick my tiger's eye in my pocket or my purse. So I decided to use tiger's eye in this jar spell. Once all the ingredients have been placed into the jar, it is time to seal the jar with the wax. I like to drip the wax all over the top of the jar and also along the sides a little bit. Be careful because wax is very hot, and also make sure you're not doing it anywhere you don't want wax to dry on. Make sure you don't get wax on your clothes or anything that you really like, because sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get off. Once I was done, I let the wax dry and I extinguished my candle because I wanted to use it for a future spell, but you can let it burn to the end, that's up to you. And then once the jar is complete, I do like to spend a little extra time with it to just put that last bit of intention into that jar. Tell the jar what it's gonna do. Tell the jar how it's gonna help you. That is what's going to give it its power. Now this is just an added detail, but today happens to be Tuesday, and the day of the week that you do a spell can actually amplify its power because different days have different symbolism and planets associated with them. I have actually been getting a little bit more into astrology lately, and it's something that has always baffled me and confused me, and I get overwhelmed often. I actually recently picked up an astrology book, and I'll probably share that with you guys in the future. But I decided to do this spell specifically on a Tuesday because it's actually ruled by the planet Mars, which is named after a Nordic god, Tyr. T-Y-R, I hope I said that right. If I didn't, please correct me. Basically, they are an invincible warrior, and you know that warrior energy is definitely a very courageous energy, and I thought it would be the perfect day to do a courage spell. There's many books that talk about the specific days of the week and which days of the week are associated with different symbolism, different correspondences, so I'll leave some book links in the description box for books that I frequently reference for things like that, just to help you guys out if you are interested. I hope you guys enjoy this courage jar spell. I highly encourage you to try it for yourself and make it your own. If there's anything that you wish to change, go ahead. Make it personal to you. I think that is something that's extremely powerful in magic, and the more personal the spell, the better. If you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It honestly really helps out my channel, and maybe consider sticking around and subscribing. I put up new videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. I would love for you to be a part of our family Magic Unleashed. I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye, guys.